Hello, friends, and welcome to the final episode of Season 1 of Booked. Today's guest is JD Sanderson. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
I am good. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. This has been a long time coming, and I've been looking forward to it for ages. After I finished reading After the Syzygy, which I hope I've pronounced correctly, I
You
was
did.
like, I hope I can interview this person because I loved it so much. That was like my gateway drug to your work. So thank you for making the time to be here. And this is the final episode of season 1 of Booked, which is crazy. And it's episode 42, which I think is quite poetic being a sci-fi
Mhm.
writer. Um, so I think it all just aligned perfectly.
So are you saying my work is literally the answer to life, the universe, and everything?
It's very close. You
Mhm.
definitely tickle those subjects quite a lot in your work.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we're gonna go with a yes for that
Okay.
one.
Yeah. After the syzygy is small enough to be a gateway drug. It's a very bite-sized little thing.
Yes. But it covers so much ground. It covers a lot of ground. So for anyone that hasn't read this book, it's a novella. Is it classed as a novella? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is like a collection of instances in time that lead up to a very awesome moment. I don't want to spoil anything because
Mhm.
the excitement is finding out what the heck is going on. But it was stunning. I loved it. Myself and my co-host Sora have talked about it on an episode of Strangers in Fiction, which will be coming out after this episode airs. So I'm not going to spoil that either. Both loved it, just to let you know, so you can rest easy. We were both very nice about the book. But if you want
Oh,
to learn
that's
more
fine.
about that, you can head to that episode. Um,
Yeah.
so
It was
yeah, go ahead.
it was a weird project because I wrote it while I was dog sitting at my parents' house. My
Mhm,
dad was in Omaha getting surgery done. So I had to stay there for a week. So I wrote a chapter a night,
mhm,
and then I edited it on the sixth day, I think.
mhm.
And then I let it sit and marinate for about 8 months. Then my wife edited it. 'Cause she's got a really, really good eagle eye for that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And yeah, I was I because I it's a weird book because I know it's like just some people would call it just a series of vignettes that
Mhm.
all culminate in one thing, like a syzygy. So the title is multiple puns.
Mhm.
And I love the cover too. My wife also designed the cover because she's a very good artist.
Stunning cover.
Yeah, I wanted something that threw back to the 1970s that inspired it, like the old Asimov stories and Ringworld and all those other great classics. And but yeah, it's an example of how I can never do the same project twice. Everything I do is a reaction and in diametric opposition to the work I do before that. My first two
Mhm.
books were like this, very deep character piece that was highly inspired by my favorite sci-fi TV show called The OA,
Mhm.
which is on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen that or
I
not, but
haven't, no.
it's done by the creators were Brett Marling and Zalbot Monlich, and they've done other shows and on some other low budget sci-fi movies, but they're just so creative. And I watched that with my wife in 2016, and I was just like, "Holy shit, this is so original!" And I said, "I want to do that in a book. That's what I want to do.
Oh, cool.
Something that completely throws out every trope I can think of." So while I was writing them, I went out of my way to completely avoid every common thing I could think of.
Mhm.
And I mean, there's probably some usual tropage in there that always sneaks in, but I try not to. And then after that, I worked on a small science fiction story with Stephen Coughlin's A Remnants universe, which was like grade A horror. And I'm not a horror person at all. I am way too much of a wimp to watch most horror movies. So I just said, what the hell would scare me? So I just did a short story there. Then I went to my Around the Dark Dial, which is a collection of throwback science fiction short stories. Because I one of my first loves was my aunt gave me a bunch of cassette tapes when I was young of old 1950s radio plays.
Mhm.
So I listened to all those, and then after that, I was like, well, I'm going to do something that's not bite sized and not cliche. So then I did After the Syzygy, and now I'm coming full circle around and re-editing my first two books. So it's just I'm very tired.
I mean, you have packed in quite a lot in this period of time. When did you start writing to publish?
Um, I had between the ages of 15 and 30, I probably abandoned 10 books. I would get about 20 to 30 pages in, and I would just say, screw it. I don't like this. This one was too Doctor Who. This was too Star Trekky. I could never find my own voice. Seeing that original work on Netflix made me just go, I'm just going to just say, screw it to planning, screw it to plotting, and I'm just going to just do what I can
Mm,
to be as original as possible, maybe even to my detriment, because if you don't have some familiar things in there, a lot of people can't relate to it as a work of
yeah.
fiction. But whatever. One of my favorite musicians of all time, two of them are Prince and Jeff Beck, and
Okay.
because they really did not give a damn if you liked their work.
Mhm.
And I like that people like my stuff. I like when they buy it and leave good reviews, but it's not necessary for me. I don't have an ego to feed.
Yeah.
This is a just something I kind of just have to do every now and then.
Mhm. Do you find that the stories sort of bother you if you don't get them out, or do you get a spark of inspiration and then you don't stop until they're out of you?
Um, I I don't know. I have to marinate quite a bit in between stories.
Mm.
If someone is really looking forward to my next work, they're going to be very disappointed because I will go sometimes 2 years before I write and publish something else.
Yeah.
I work a full time job. I have a family. We have a
Mhm.
7-year-old daughter, so I have responsibilities. And also, I put everything into one book and then I get burnt out.
Mhm.
So I don't follow that thing. You have to write every day. No, no, I don't. I absolutely do not have to do that because I'm going to be putting it on. It's why I could never do
Yeah.
It's also why I could never do certain things, like, I could never do what a lot of people love and consider popular because I'd be faking it.
Yeah.
I love some high fantasy like The Lord of the Rings. I
Mhm.
could never write it because
Yeah.
I couldn't sell it.
Mhm. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for ignoring what the writing community sometimes will pressure people into thinking they have to do, especially when you enter the realm on social media, for example,
Mhm.
and you're trying to figure out who you are as a writer and what you're supposed to be doing and what does my day look like when it comes to writing, and then you see these people giving you all these rules, like as you said, like you have to write a little bit every day or you have to do xyz, and for most people that's not the case, and trying to force yourself to fit into this category that you don't fit into is just not going to produce something of value, because
No.
you can't get behind something that you don't totally love or give a shit about. um, so I'm glad that you were able to be like, this is what I'm gonna do, and that's what I like doing, and it has
Yeah.
produced excellent books. So I feel like that was a good move for you.
Thank you. I was very lucky to have 3 formative things that happened to me young in my career. I was 35 when I first published.
Mhm,
Um, I have a very, very smart wife who is very good at even though she doesn't like she's a complete academic
mhm,
and doesn't read it. She loves science fiction, but doesn't read a lot of it. She prefers to watch it, which is fine. I don't give
yeah,
a shit how you absorb stories. But she will sit there and just go, I honestly think that you sound better when you do this.
mhm,
And that's really encouraging. I When I first wrote A Footstep Echo, I tried submitting it around to like different because I was like, I think I have something kind of different here. So I submitted it around, and one of the people I forget who it was because it was so long ago, but it was a mid-sized publisher in California,
mhm,
and the guy he typed like a shall I say he'd been in the business like quite a very long time. He was older, and
mhm.
he said, "I'm not going to accept your work, but I'm going to give you some advice.
Okay.
Don't try and be Stephen King. You are not Stephen King. Your work is going to live and breathe in dialogue. Do not waste time on description. You can't do it. Rewrite your book like that with that mindset, and I guarantee some people will like to read it." And I looked back at it, and my wife was like, "Yeah, why are you spending all this time describing the room and the chairs and everything?" I was like,
Mhm,
"Well, a lot of books I read are like that." But so I was an influence, but I was just like, "Yeah, I think I suck at this." So I went through it and cut a shitload of description out. This and the first book is. I'm not known for long works. A Footstep
mhm,
Echo is 75,000 words. It's a
mhm.
small novel, and I think I cut 10,000 out of it of just description.
Mhm. That's
And I,
quite good.
and then I go back and I realize this is probably why I've never finished a Stephen King book. Sorry, Stephen King lovers. I know he's beloved, but I can't stand his stuff. And he's not the only one. There's other people I just can't get through because I'm just like 50 pages in. I just throw this certain authors aside. I'm like, get on with the story.
Yes,
You know,
yeah, I read
boy,
very similarly.
my threads is going to be lit up for that hot take, but oh well. I've heard him in interviews. He seems like a very nice guy. I'll say that.
Yeah, yeah.
And his works have produced some great movies.
Mhm.
That being said, then the third one was the very first podcast I was on when I was promoting my first book, and I was on with two authors who were all about the profit. They wrote
Mhm.
stuff specifically to get published and to make a lot of money. And they said, "Well, yeah, if you want to do a vanity project, that's up to you, but you do not. But we do a profit project." And I was just like, I'm kind of glad I'm hearing this right now because this is, I mean, God bless them. They've probably sold more and made more money than I ever will with this. But
Mhm.
I just I can't do that.
Yeah.
I'd rather write something I really like and have not that many people read it. Um,
Yeah.
and the stuff I write, you read it, it's weird. It does not fit into a lot of common boxes. So there's a reason why I have not been able to attract any big publishers to my stuff.
That's why I love the indie scene so much is that you don't have to fit into those categories. You're able to present your work in the way that it looks in your brain, and then people will either like it or they won't. And if they don't, then they won't read it. And that's kind of it. Whereas, like, you have this distinct style, and I hadn't noticed that you have a lot of dialogue because it's so smooth, but you do actually have a lot of dialogue in your work. And something that I wanted to comment on, especially since reading A Footstep Echo, the collection, um, is that you present such alien technology and scenarios and what have you without using like tons and tons of description, but I knew exactly what was going on and I could see it happening in my head. And that takes a lot of talent. Like when you're
Thank you.
succinct, but you're very clear and you can help that movie play in that person's mind. That's what a good book is to me. If I can't imagine what's going on, I find it really hard to enjoy a book.
Mhm. Yeah, that's the radio play influence because you often just have a few actors with some goofy sound effects,
Hmm.
and they were just literally talking through everything and using their the dialogue to say, okay, hold on, let me just go into the other room here, and
Hmm.
then you just hear all the effects of them walking, and then they relay it. So that's what I do. I took that guy's advice, and my wife kind of agreed. She's like, yeah, I think it's better when you say it like this. So I upped the dialogue and just kind of leaned into that, and it became kind of like an accidental signature thing.
Hmm. No, it definitely works for you. And I started reading Around the Dark Dial a couple of days ago. I haven't got that far through it because I've got a really long list of books to read for the podcast. But what I love is that in the three works of yours that I've read, I can see so many connections, and they're obviously all influenced by each other in some way. Like the simulants, for example, are all sort of featured somewhere, or at least acknowledged in terms of the technology and the way everything works. And I kind of like how everything ties together because it feels familiar. So, like each new thing I read, I think I already know about this thing. That's really cool. Is everything set in the same universe, or is it
No,
coincidental?
no, it's coincidental. After the Syzygy is in a completely different universe
Mhm.
than the Footstep Echo stuff, and every story, well, almost every story in Around the Dark Dial is in its own pocket universe.
Mhm.
Well, as you read, you'll find that several stories are connected,
Yeah.
but rather than make it easy and put them all next to each other, I spread them out just to dick with my readers. I
Mhm.
guess there's no other reason to do it. But my favorite story in that collection is Caller Four.
That's my
Um,
favorite one so far. It's so scary.
yeah, it's like an X Files episode.
Yes, that's exactly what it's like. It was so good. It was so good.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I've really enjoyed it so far. One question I did have because I had a little like I've read this before moment. You've put one of the stories from Around the Dark Dial into the uh, A Footstep
Yes,
Echo collection.
because that one is in the same universe.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
I was like, I've read this before because my memory's terrible. I didn't recognize the title, and I was like,
Mhm.
have I seen this on television? What is happening? What was the thought process behind putting that into this collection?
So So when I wrote this was another instance of me being by myself. I did not have enough vacation time at the time to accompany my wife and then 1-year-old daughter. She went with her
Mhm.
family to Arizona to visit to visit family,
Mhm,
and I could not go, so I stayed behind for 2 weeks at our then apartment.
mhm,
So I wrote a story a night,
mhm.
and that became Around the Dark Dial.
Okay.
And I had finished my first two books that be A Footstep Echo and the Clock's Now. So I kind of wrote the simulant as kind of like a little Easter egg for anyone who read those two books.
Oh,
I
I
said
see.
I'm going to set it in the same universe but with different characters and kind of
Okay.
like in chronologically it's actually probably before all the
Mhm.
events of the first two books, but I didn't do that when I assembled this new collection because I thought it would throw things off.
I see. Okay. Yeah, it would have read like a prologue for the
Yeah.
events to come, um, which would have been very confusing. But no, I did want to ask that because I thought, am I going crazy?
No, no, it's that's fine. It was a fun little thing to do, and I because I am also somebody who cannot do. I'm not going to do a footstep echo 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Yeah,
I went out of my way to kill the series at two books because
yeah.
um and there are writers out there who do a very good job. Like they've got like a quintology planned, and
Mhm.
this rising part 1 of this series. I'm like, God bless you. I can't do that. I get too bored.
Yeah.
I need to do something else. And and the main character, the mystery girl in this,
Mhm.
the only thing for me to do because I these are two both novels are relatively small in scale. The
Yeah.
world is not going to end.
Mhm.
You're only trying to save the life of one or two people. And I like telling smaller personal stories. I will never write something that's like an Avengers movie where the world is going to blow up or we're going to be conquered.
Okay, good to know.
Beca- Because that's just it that's it there are people who do it better than I ever could, and I've seen it 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And the only way I could continue the series is if suddenly she was now at the helm of a starship fighting off aliens because I've told smaller tale stories
Mhm.
all over again. So
Yeah.
it's just I went out of my way to just leave. I do like endings that leave it open ended
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
I like the fact that you can kind of tell what happens to her in your mind, and that's the same thing with After the Syzygy,
Mhm.
um, which I've had ideas about doing a second novella for that,
Mhm.
but it would probably be set at the same time and not afterwards. It would be like a parallel story.
Okay.
Yeah. My
Interesting.
wife was like, "You should tell one from the aliens' point of view,"
Oh,
and I'm like, "That would be really cool."
that would be really cool because you don't
Mhm.
often get that sort of perspective. Something I really liked about the aliens and After the Syzygy, and Sora brought this up, and I didn't realize that I enjoyed that so much, is that they are not designed exactly like the stereotype for aliens are. And that again, you can tell you put your unique spin on it, but it's not like, oh, it's tried to be different. It's like, oh, this is interesting. And when you're presented with like something that doesn't we haven't proved to exist yet, hopefully, um, you can literally do whatever you like.
Yeah, I because anything that grows up on any other kind of planet is going to have a different atmospheric composition. It's going to be different
Mhm,
biology. I mean, we happen to be made up of the four most common elements in the universe that we've discovered. Humans are
mhm,
made of three of them.
mhm,
But who's to say what an alien? If we had grown up on Titan, we'd be made up of methane.
mhm,
So I mean, yeah, it's So when I went out, I wanted to do a non-humanoid alien.
mhm,
And well, that's one of them. The physical ones we meet, there are other that are non-corporeal. They don't
mhm.
live in bodies, and I wanted to do something kind of like that. But the other ones are definitely not human. I think I described them as about the size of a gray wolf.
Mhm.
Yeah, but
Yeah. The visual was incredibly interesting, and it's the same for most of the like technology, like the data sheets.
mhm,
Um, in A Footstep Echo, and
yeah,
the is it the clock's knell?
yes,
I'm terrible with remembering things. I have notes here. I still forget. But those I was like trying to imagine what they look like, and I thought that's again something that I've not heard of, but it's still interesting, and it's not trying to be different, but it's in fitting with the level of technology of the time. Um,
yep.
yeah.
I literally stole that from a theoretical physicist named Dr. Michio Kaku. He's always on TV,
Oh,
guy with the long
really?
silvery hair, and he said that eventually, uh, as technology becomes more refined, computers are going to be basically just like a sheet of paper, and you'll just throw them away when you're done. I was like, I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna borrow that.
It worked. So
Mhm.
that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I love telling smaller scale stories like Syzygy and Around the
Mhm,
Dark Dial, but this was the what the hell's my proofing copy here? A Footstep Echo, the complete collection, is my chance to tell something much more layered. I thought this was
mhm.
actually kind of weird. I had for a while. I wanted to go back and redo it because the first two copies had a shitload of first book problems.
Okay.
I wasn't a very good formatter. You
Mhm,
know, when you're self-editing and you haven't had a lot of practice yet, I wasn't really at my current job that long, where now I work in communications and editing all day long.
yeah.
But I hadn't been doing it that long. So I had been more on like the social media and website marketing aspect in my career.
Mhm,
So there were commas and a little typos I missed. Sometimes the returns weren't always good. There was like a whole space on one page. It was just, stuff that I had missed because I just, you know, was very busy settling into a new job, just moved halfway across the continent, had a newborn daughter. So
mhm,
things that I just wanted to go back and fix.
mhm,
And I knew that because my two more recent books had gotten a really good edit. I was like, I can bring these up in quality and also straighten out some things. You read only the more modern version,
mhm,
thank God, because I'm still very proud of the stories and I love the covers that my wife did for them. They're
mhm.
beautiful. And she did this new one too.
She's very good.
And yes, she is. And I'm not dumb. I married up. Um, and but I knew that there were things I could do, and also a few little continuity things. So I was happy to do that. But I was also like, I have gained far more readers over the years doing much shorter stories.
Mm,
And I'm like, is anyone that's familiar with my work going to want to sit through something that's almost 500 pages?
yeah, it's pretty
And so it was
thick.
kind of it felt like kind of a risk. I was just like,
Mhm.
I don't know. Fuck it, let's just do it and see if it works.
I think it works. If you're listening to this and you love sci-fi, you need to read it. Um, I I've said this before on other episodes. I love consuming sci-fi on the television. I find it very difficult to enjoy sci-fi as a book, but because of the way that you write and you tell stories, it doesn't fatigue me. And that's what I really valued about reading any of your work, really, is that it's not exclusively for people who love sci-fi, but it really does its job for those who love sci-fi. And you also have elements of like family and social issues and political issues and friendships and love and loss and grief, and it's got a lot of layers to it, and there's a lot to enjoy for people who like lots of different things in the things that they read. So it's not just like, oh, there's some time travel and some spooky aliens. It's like there's so much going on that it's incredibly
Yeah.
entertaining the whole way through, and there's not like sections where I'm thinking, oh my god, just get on with it, I'm bored of this.
Yeah, no, it's because I'm not a scientist, and a lot of sci-fi writers are, or
Yeah.
at least they have a background in it. I'm a science fan, but
Mhm.
I didn't go to school for scientists. I'm just a writer who fell into all this shit. And so look, I love scientists. Like one of my favorite authors growing up was this American author named David Weber, and he is like a physicist. And so if you read his stuff, you are going to be doing homework. Charles Sheffield, British author, also a physicist and mathematician. And I love his science fiction stories, but you have to sit there with, a textbook to understand them. I am not a hard science fiction writer. I'm just a guy who likes a lot of cheesy radio plays, so I decided to put that spin on it. And yeah, that's kind of where I was going.
Mhm.
Looking at this now, I'm like, Jesus Christ, the table of contents for this thing is massive.
But there are two books in there as
Yeah, I know,
well.
I know.
Let's not forget. So anyone that's interested in reading this collection, don't skip over the fact that it says the collection. There's more than one thing in this book.
Yeah, I'm not forcing you to read it all in one sitting. It's fine.
Mhm.
You can take 6 months to read it if you want to. Some people
Mhm.
I like to hop between two or three books on my nightstand at the same time. Um, I know I was really proud of this collection, even though hopefully some people will enjoy it. But and thank you also because for those playing the home game, Saffron here gave me the excellent cover quote.
Well, thank you for asking me. It was a pleasure. It was
Yeah.
very exciting. Uh,
You're probably going to be inundated with requests to do so.
I already have been. Um, so that's nice. But no, it was lucky because I read it and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. So it was really easy to write that. had it have been not so great, I don't know how I would have coped with it. So yes,
Yeah,
I mean
I
what I
got I
say.
got to I got to review some. I did send it out to ARC readers, and one person really nailed it in a way
Mhm.
that I actually didn't realize that I had written it on. You might have caught on this too. He says, "You will question whether love can transcend behavior,"
Mm,
and I just
yes,
realized I was like, "Well, fuck, that's probably what the whole thing is about." Now that I'm now that I'm hearing it.
accidental plot.
I mean, because I don't plot things out and I don't make notes about what I'm going to do next. I
Mhm,
literally just let my keys. The only thing I think about with every character is how old they are, what their education level is, and where they're from, so I can kind of place their dialogue. That's the only thing I plan for every story.
yeah.
And and it's a very weird group of characters in A Footstep Echo, the complete collection. You've
Mhm,
got people from all over the world. Like the character Raslin, I imagine him as from Egypt. Tal and the Mystery Girl, both Canadian.
mhm,
Um, a you know, Caleb is from Britain. I've imagined him being actually from London with the way I make him speak. Adelaide is from South Africa, and on and on and on.
mhm,
Um, but yeah, so I really want it's because I love character based stuff. Um, so I really wanted to do something like that with this, and I really when I went through and re-edited it, it took me 8 months to do. Just on lunch breaks here and there,
mhm,
and the occasional hour or so on the weekend. So I really beefed up a lot of the character stuff
mhm.
and everything like that. And so I wanted to ask, did you have a favorite character?
Tal was my favorite character, I will say. I love that she was very unassuming for a big chunk of it and then came into her own. And I'm going to be really careful about how I word this. And then who she becomes towards the end, I was really oddly, I felt proud of her. And when I feel stuff for characters, it makes me feel really weird because I'm like, they're not real. So I think hers was the character that I connected with the most. I love the mystery girl because she has like a really interesting um, journey throughout the whole thing. But yeah, Nightal was my favorite. I also really love Bernard, and I'm not going to say anything about anything. Um, I still love him. I love him very much. He's a
No.
precious little womble man. I love him.
Yeah,
Your
that was.
oh
Go ahead.
sorry, I was going to say your ability to give each of those characters a distinct personality was it made it so much more enjoyable to read because of the use of dialogue that you have. I didn't question. Sometimes I'll read a book and I think, who the hell is talking? And I knew exactly who was talking at all times. And you also didn't like shovel on a bunch of dialogue tags that didn't need to be there. But
No,
yeah,
I excessive dialogue tags. Sometimes you can just use the action of what they're doing to
yeah,
describe the character,
mhm,
to show who's talking.
mhm,
Yeah, that came from the just letting their personalities grow. Because
yeah,
when I wrote the first book and I published it, and I noticed that like the first 5 reviews said I really like Tal, so in the second book I bumped her up consciously.
yeah.
Um, and then other people, and I remember another bit of feedback I got when I submitted the first book. Someone said
Mhm.
you should get rid of the gay character.
Ew.
And yeah, I know. And this was from what I thought was a relatively forward thing, small press. And he says you're going to either look like you're pandering or you're going to offend other people for not getting it right. And they said, and I just said, so in the next book, I showed him planning his wedding,
I like that.
just because I just am like, I'm like, oh, screw you. Um, and this is that's that's I to be fair, I
Mhm,
have never gotten that kind of feedback again.
mhm.
Which is nice because I tend to just jam my finger in someone's face when they tell me something I can't do. Uh, Normally, the feedback I get is, "We love your stories, we love your characters. We don't know how to market this, so we're going to pass."
I
Because
can
and somebody,
understand that, but I can't
yeah,
understand it.
yeah, someone said that Bernard should not be the main character because he's in his 70s, so he should be he could be a secondary character. The Mystery Girl, instead of being like in her late 20s, early 30s, should be like 22 and describe her looks a little bit more. They wanted it more like a young adult,
Yeah.
type of novel.
Mhm,
Which is, I mean, I've had young adult readers say I don't like science fiction, but I like your story because it kind of has a young adult spirit to it, even though
mhm.
none of the characters are young. I mean,
Yeah,
they're not that young. I think Tal is the youngest one, and I don't even describe her age. I just imagine her at like 22 or 23.
yeah. I think at one point she's referred to as being in her early 20s, but like
Yeah,
passing. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, no, she's got a definitely got a more youthful outlook, and seeing
yeah.
her go from being shy to a bit more ballsy was nice to see as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Despite the fact she has her gray hair already coming in, which is another thing I'm very proud of in my universe is that no one wears makeup or dyes their hair in the future. I just, for some reason, I'm like, that's going to eventually go out of style, right? Aren't people eventually just say, fuck it, I don't want to do this anymore? Men
I
and women.
I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
Let's
Oh,
start now. No more hair dye. I'm letting my greys grow through. You've inspired me.
no, I earned this shit. I earned every
Right.
one of these things.
Oh, let my decaying body show its true form. No, I what I really love about everything of yours that I've read so far, and I've not read everything, so if I've missed anything, then you'll have to forgive me, is that you paint the picture of a hopeful future. And that is incredibly refreshing. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love a dystopian book. I love horror. It's my favorite genre. However, sometimes you need something hopeful. And even though there are themes like a lot of death happens, um,
Mhm.
it's still set in a very hopeful place. And I greatly appreciate that because it's
Oh,
not like everything's perfect, but it's like it might be all right, because at the moment things don't feel like they will be.
yeah, I mean, there's um I always wanted to do that, especially with after the syzygy, I really wanted
Mhm.
to do something that was positive.
Yeah.
Um I was really inspired by Foundation by Isaac Asimov because it's at the time jumps and telling a
Mhm.
sociological story instead of a character focused story.
Mhm.
But I wanted to do it with kind of a more positive outlook. That's why I invented like an empathy economy for
Mhm.
that one, which would be nice. And it's no mistake that the aliens in that use empathy to communicate. They're
Mhm.
100% empathetic, and so if you're angry around them, it's going to affect all of them.
Mhm.
Which is kind of I again just trying to think of some shit I haven't read before. The and then but if no spoilers, but if you're only partway through around the Dark Dial, there's a story in there called the Snowstorm that's going to go full dystopian on you and then some. And
That's
I
so
wrote it I wrote it in 2019 as a gag,
okay.
and it's coming true today.
Brilliant. I
And I was like, guys, I was joking for Christ's sake. This is not. I wasn't giving a roadmap.
If you enjoy things like that, I'm going to plug a book, but I think it's because you might like it.
Sure.
So there is a book that's coming out called The Jump by Mark Paxson, which he
Hmm.
wrote in 2015 as like a sort of silly take on how dystopian it could get, and it is very much reads as a social commentary now. It's that's very good, and it's full of humor and also a little bit dark. But yeah, just wanted to say if you enjoy things like that, I think it's a novella, and that's
I will
that's
keep an eye out.
yeah, please do. But yeah, I love it when things like that happen, or when I don't know if you've ever watched The Simpsons or if you enjoy The Simpsons, but
Yeah.
I've been watching old episodes, and some of them I think that's happening at the moment, and that's very scary.
The people in the writers' room of The Simpsons are the best eye detectors in the entire world. They just have the artistic imagination
Mhm.
to imagine. It's highlighting the absurd through absurdity.
Yes, and they're very, very good at it. But I've
Hmm.
been really enjoying that as well. Not this is not an advert about The Simpsons. I just watched it this morning, so
Right.
it was fresh in my brain. But yeah, I think going down the indie route and self-publishing your work is probably the smartest thing that you could have done with it, because as you say,
Mhm.
if you're driven by the joy of telling the story, then I truly believe that the end product, because it is a product, the end product that you get is of so much more of a high quality than if you're driven by money. And
Yeah.
it definitely reads like that. Like your work reads like you actually give a shit about it rather than like trying to play to what you assume people are going to want to buy.
Right.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely a good choice.
And it's also because I'm only a good compromiser to a point. For years and years and
Mhm.
years, I was a professional musician before I came into this life, and I was
Really?
in bands, and I taught guitar students, and everything, and I learned that I am absolutely terrible at collaborating. You have to know your strengths. You have to know your strengths. I am not a good collaborator. I mean,
Okay.
by and large, like I'll do a small plug here too. I just had two short stories accepted into different anthologies.
Amazing.
They're both coming out next year. One's a dark one, one's a light one. So it's going to be
Mhm.
a very very odd year of promoting. Like here's a dark and grim story. Here's a very happy one.
Okay.
But so I'm good with that. If I'm working with an editor in a collection that's not mine,
Mhm.
like I did with Stephen's Remnants collection, I can play ball just fine because
Mhm.
I'm going into someone else's own. But if it's my stuff, I really don't want to hear anyone else's opinion. And it's not out of ego or vanity because I don't really have much of an ego. It's more just like this is the universe I want to play in, and um, if you want me to do something different, then no. I
At
just,
least you know where your limits are.
yeah, I do. I do. I mean, being a musician told me that I was a terrible person probably to be in a band with because I was like, no, I want to do it like this. And people in a band is a collaborative effort unless you hire out all your musicians.
Yeah.
Um, and but I learned that I'm not good at it. I don't have the temperament for it. I'm not an outright dick to anybody. At least I hope I'm not. I realize what I'm saying now makes me sound like I'm an outright asshole. But I promise, it's just this is why I don't take people up on. I haven't really been asked in a while to collaborate, but if I did, I would probably have to be very, very careful and just be like, I don't know. I mean, I'm really gonna kind of be a hard ass about certain things if it's my sandbox we're playing in. If it's someone else's sandbox, just give me the Bible for what the rules are, and I'll dance. But
Yeah.
but I have a very specific thing in mind when I start a project, and I that's probably why I don't know if traditional publishing ever will be for me because, like I
Mhm.
said, I got all those tips back from somebody saying you should do this, this, and this, and then we'll talk. And I'm like, no,
Mhm.
that because then it becomes a completely different story. And they wanted the quasi utopian future to also be dystopian. And I'm like, well, the government already does some underhanded shit in here. Can't I just leave it at that, but still have a lot of problems been solved? No.
I when I first started this whole I'm gonna write something, it's still not finished. Let's not talk about that.
Mhm.
When I first started getting into the whole realm of this biz, I thought, I'm gonna write a book, I'm gonna get an agent, I'm gonna do this, it's gonna be famous, blah blah blah. And then as I'm writing it, I think, okay, well, I don't want that many people to read it. So that's that out the window. And then hearing people's experiences with going down the traditional route, it's for some people and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not what I want to do. And I feel similarly to you. Like, if I've written something, that's my story. And if somebody comes along and tries to tell me that it's not marketable, that's fine. I just know that about that thing now. And
Mhm.
that's totally okay. But I made the decision not that long after I started looking into everything that self-publishing was going to be the way to go for me
Mhm.
because I don't like you. I don't want somebody telling me how my story goes. Like, it's like painting something and then someone saying, "Well, you didn't put enough red in there." Well, fuck off! It's my painting. Like, let me do what I want to do.
Yeah.
Oh, something that I wanted to bring up, and I know it's a sore subject for everybody: marketing.
Uh, yeah.
Awful. What have been your experiences? Because I know that you're now trying to market a new thing to readers that already expect a certain thing from you. How are you
Mhm.
tackling that at the moment?
I just do the same thing I always do, which is just post a couple times a day on social media. I don't have the time or the energy to manage multiple social media outlets. When I
Yeah.
left, I used to be on the bad place, and then the algorithm was changed, and my sales and everything crashed. Because I'd already been through that before. I'm like, I'm not doing this again. It
Hmm.
was and during the pandemic. I used to sell, not huge, but I would sell, like over a dozen or 20 something books a month
Hmm.
with my first couple books, and then the pandemic happened, and I went almost 2 years without a sale.
Wow.
It was correct. This first book, I mean, my Around the Dark Dial initially had a deal with an indie publishing house that was decent.
Hmm.
There's then that died. The
Hmm.
pandemic crushed their sales, and then that
Oh,
was it for that.
sad.
So I got the rights back, and I published it on my own.
Oh, cool.
And that was a very long time to just constantly be tweeting and saying, "Hey, check out this book," and just no one cares because everyone's locked inside. But people were reading books, but they just weren't
Mhm.
reading mine, I guess. Um, then I released After the Syzygy, and that kind of helped a little bit, and then that brought
Mhm.
more attention to Around the Dark Dial. And but then when Twitter went under new management and everything changed, I was like, I'm not doing this again. I'm not going to sit here and just scream into a void if
Mhm.
the only thing around me are just people that aren't listening or they want something else.
Yeah.
So I said I'm going to pick one place. That's why I went to Threads and Instagram because it's two for the price of one. You could
Yeah.
just post one to the other, and it's nice. It's easy. Um, I know people are on Substack. Some people do Blue Sky and Mastodon and Twitter and everything
Mhm.
else. And I'm like, I don't have the fucking time for that. I no, I'm not doing it. I don't have my own website. You can just click follow on my Amazon author profile.
Mhm.
I also don't have the time or the resources to pay for stuff to go wide.
Yeah.
So I am exclusive to Amazon right now. I know that Amazon is kind of a dirty word, and I get it because I think that some of the things they do are freaking awful.
Mhm.
But they have also pretty much hoovered up every other game in town.
Mhm.
And there's certain things you have to do if you want to just have anyone see your work. I could just put it on a Substack for free and let people read it, or
Mhm.
put it behind a gateway, to pay something or on a Patreon or whatever. Um, it shows what a great time we're in because now you have to monetize every hobby you possibly have to try and to try and make ends meet.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I keep plugging away on Threads and Instagram. I don't plug too much so the algorithm doesn't get tired of me.
Mhm.
And but I try and post things out there that have a little bit of humor to them. Like I have my dogs do some videos marketing my books. I have other videos where the reels on Instagram where the books are arguing with each other. And Around the Dark Dial, for some reason, I gave it a very upper crust, snobby British accent. And Around the Dark Dial, I mean, After the Syzygy is kind of just like laid back, and this one I'm trying to do a girl's voice. I don't know, probably because of the mystery girl. So it's just
Oh, yes, that makes sense.
it's really weird.
Have you found that any particular thing works best for you, or is it a bit hit and miss? Is it like catching people at the right time?
I think for me personally, it's just a little bit of luck.
Mm,
A,
okay.
a lot of bit of luck.
Mhm.
I put things out there for people to find. If someone says, "Hey, I'm looking for this kind of book," I will share it like a lot of authors do.
Mhm.
Um, and I think as of this right now, I'm up to 8 pre-orders.
That's
Um,
great.
Although if I get 10 or 15, I have to embarrass myself a certain way on Instagram. So please pre-order the book, and I will read some chapters aloud, or maybe even do a partial face reveal. You could get an eyebrow, you could get an earlobe, you might get something out there. But
Excellent. I will put the link for the pre-order in the description of the episode, and it is also on Indiosyncrasy as well. Um, I highly recommend this book, specifically the book that I didn't name just then, A Footstep Echo, the complete collection. It's phenomenal. It's really, really good, and I wouldn't have said that you could put my name on the back of the book if I didn't really truly believe in it. I think it's really, really good. And again, coming from someone that doesn't read sci-fi, I think it was excellent. So, and it remains to be excellent for the rest of time and in other
thank you.
dimensions.
Yeah, the
You're welcome.
it was important for me to put this out there and redo it. But I'm also leaving as much as I'm saying to people, please don't go and don't be impatient. Wait for September 15th for this new one to come out.
Mhm.
Because some people, I saw one person post online, I could just check out your old ones. I'm like,
Please don't.
as much as I love Kindle Unlimited reads, but I'm not getting rid of them.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave them up, flaws and all, because
Mhm.
I don't want to be George Lucas. And, I would love nothing more as a fan to see the original cuts of Star Wars again, but I can't.
Yes.
And so I made the decision a year ago when I first started playing with this in my mind that I was going to keep the original versions up there.
Mhm.
I'm not going to take them down. I still love the cover artwork that my wife did them. They have some different things in the story
Mhm.
that are not present in this new version,
Mhm.
and they have their flaws, but that's just part of learning as a writer. No first book is perfect.
Yes.
This is now my one, two, three, four, five. This is now my fifth effort, and it's still not perfect, but it's a lot better than it was before.
It's
So
pretty good.
hopefully, thank you. Hopefully. Hopefully, people check it out. And my when I first wrote the first version of A First Footstep Echo, my beta reader at the time, this guy named Pete, who I used to work with, great
Mhm.
guy, he said it's like Doctor Who meets the Bourne Identity.
Oh yeah,
And I'm like, that's kind of cool. And then the second book was like Doctor Who meets the Bourne Identity meets Girl with a Dragon Tattoo.
yeah.
And I'm
Actually,
like, okay.
I get
Like, can I
that.
just I'm like, can I just have you describe all my shit, Pete? That's awesome. I could never do that.
Need to get Pete on the marketing team.
Yeah, I should. I should. Well, I really appreciate you having me on again. Thank you very much. I'm glad that you like the story. I hope other people do as well. This is a pretty personal story. There's a lot of me in a lot of these characters, more than any of the other characters in my other books.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, you if you were to do a cross section of me, which is horrifying to think of, if you did it for real. You know, Bernard, Mystery Girl, Tal, there's all a little bit of me in all of them.
Mhm.
Hopefully not the Echo Killer. I hope not. Because he's a really horrible person. Um,
Proper dickhead.
yeah, yeah, he is. He's really bad. I really was just writing this and I'm like, God, what's wrong with me? Every writer goes through that. When they're writing a film, they're like, do I need therapy? Um,
He was proper evil.
mhm. He wasn't born that way though.
Oh, Lady
He
Gaga
was made
was
that way.
wrong.
Yeah. I mean, well, at least that. I mean, look, certain people can have their own interpretations on it. Somebody might read this, and that's why I think people will like checking out this book because there's going to be
Mhm.
many interpretations of these characters. You know, you're going to look at somebody's going to look at his story, which is in the second book, but you
Mhm.
have to read the first book to get to it.
Yes.
They're gonna be like, well, maybe this guy always was this way, and this set him off. And somebody
Mhm.
else is going to look at this and say, you know, it seems like he played by the rules all of his life, and look where it got him because of the actions
Mm.
of somebody else. And oh, it doesn't take much to find out how tough you really are and
Mhm.
who might not snap if everything was taken away from you the way it was him because of
Mhm.
one person.
Yeah.
And
He had a rough time, but he was also still really fucking awful.
yeah, he was fucking awful. You know, I mean, and that's I think that was the interesting part was I had that thought too when I was writing and when I was rewriting it. I because the first version of the story, I don't mind saying, he
Mhm.
doesn't have as much of a backstory. I
Okay.
beefed up his backstory greatly to show, he grew up on a Mars colony. He worked in security.
Mhm.
He had a decent life. He chose to play by the rules.
Mhm.
Now, it's up for you to decide, was he always just one step away from, like the Joker in the Dark Knight said, all it needs is a little push to see how bad things can get, or was it just because of entirely circumstances and he snapped?
Mhm.
I don't know. That thankfully I'm just supposed to write it. I'm not supposed to really tell you what to think about it. But I hope people check it out, and please be sure to follow on Threads and Instagram at a sci-fi writer. You can't get a more memorable handle than that. And if you follow, I don't have any newsletters or anything like that because hashtag time. But you can follow my Amazon author page and just you'll get an alert when everything new drops.
Amazing. I will add all of those in the description of the episode, and I'll also put a link for your author feature, which has all those things in it as well. That was easy for me to say. Bloody hell. Thank you so much for being here today. I truly appreciate your time, and I know that you're a super busy dude. Thank you so much for being here. It's been such a pleasure. I've really enjoyed talking to you, and hopefully we can have you on again sometime.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.